Hey folks, it's Don. In this episode of The Naturalist, we're going to take a walk around Miller Nature Sanctuary in Highland County, Ohio. So let's go. Well, it rained in this part of Ohio for about a week straight, so it's good to get back outside. So here I am at Miller Nature Sanctuary. This is a first-time visit for me. I've read a little bit about the preserve, but I'm just going to take a walk around and see what I see. But here we are with the signage for the preserve, describing three main trails that you take here at the preserve: the Arch Trail, the Falls Trail, and the Tulip Tree Trail, along with the long start into the preserve here. And a little bit about what you'll see. Okay, we're in the limestone bedrock region of Ohio. We're going to see dolomite, 430-year-old rocks. We're going to see Bisher dolomite, which is a lower level of limestone, a little more erodible, and a number of things. We're going to see waterfalls. We're going to see some natural arches, and hopefully lots of spring wildflowers and big trees as well. We are bordering Rocky Fork Creek here, so this is Rocky Fork Creek, and this preserve in green is about 85 acres. And I'll just take a walk and do each of the little loops there that you can see on the map and point out some highlights. And right as I make my start here, I'm hearing one of my favorite birds, a wood thrush, which just went quiet, but that's a nice, there it is. That's a nice sound to hear this time of year. Okay, so we're gonna head down the trail and I'll catch up with you at our first highlight. One thing I'm seeing right away leading me down the path are tiger beetles, which come out and breed around this time of year. So I'll see if I can get close enough to this tiger beetle to see it on camera. Should be about right in the center of your view, and there it went. So those are pretty aggressive beetles. They do bite, actually, if you were to handle them roughly. They often get confused for emerald ash borer because they're bright emerald green, but this is a great time to see tiger beetles, which, like I said, are flying, looking for mates and to do their thing. So I walked about 10 minutes, just a flat graveled trail from the parking area to get to my first, point of interest. Along the way, I saw lots of standard Southern Ohio vegetation, sugar maples, redbuds, some elms, lots of stuff like that. I'll point out a few things as we go. But at my first stop here, there's a little build out where it allows you to get a little closer than the trail to an arch, a natural arch. So let's take a look at this. Okay, so down below me there, about 20 feet, is one of the arches that you can see here. I think this one's called Miller Arch, and you could walk through that underneath there. So it's one of the natural bridges that we can find in Ohio. I did an episode on Rock Bridge, which is the largest and probably most impressive arch that we have in Ohio. But this is one nonetheless. Again, that limestone that makes up the bridge here, the arch, is Peebles dolomite. So it's a dolomitic limestone. It's a little stronger than the average limestone, so it sticks around while lower levels erode, and that's where you get this sort of thing, where water has washed away the softer layers underneath that arch, leaving a natural bridge in place. Okay, so there are at least a couple of these. I think this is probably the most impressive. I'm not sure if we'll be able to see it from below, but this is the view from above. Just beyond the arch there, that's Rocky Fork Creek. And we've had a lot of rain, as I said. It's quite high and muddy right now. And that creek is very beautiful gorge. Rocky Fork Gorge is beautiful for fishing and boating. It runs into the Rocky Fork Reservoir, Rocky Fork Dam. And it just winds its way through parts of Highland County and several other counties in the area here. Okay, so let's continue on our journey in that direction. So here's a junction in the trail where we can take the Arch Trail, Falls and Tulip Tree trails to the left, Arch to the right, And I'm realizing we can get below the arch we just looked at from above. So let's just go see that. I'll keep this running until we get there, just to show you what we're seeing along the way. Again, everything is just sort of bursting with green right now as these leaves expand. Very light green when they expand and darken up as they build chlorophyll and start actively photosynthesizing on most trees. Here, for example, are pawpaw leaves starting to expand. Okay. So we're going to take a little jaunt down here and get below that arch we looked at in just a second. Here's Ohio buckeye. With some rust spots. You see some rust spots. Those orange spots are a fungus pathogen of buckeye. Here you can see some of the dolomitic cliffs, and the arch will be near. Lots of things expanding. Ash seedlings, blue ash and white ash. Here's some blue ash seedlings. We have Solomon seals coming along, false Solomon seals, goat's foot. There's some May apples. Things are hot right now. Here's wild blue phlox. And here's the arch, or natural bridge. This is the Miller Sanctuary Bridge. Okay, I can't get any closer to that. But there you have a little better view of it from below. All right, so we will keep in this direction, and I think we're going to see at least one more arch. So let's do that. I'll be back. You can see these sorts of things along this trail as well. So I'm right down near the edge of Rocky Fork Creek now, and what we see here are big limestone blocks called slump blocks, and they would have fallen off of the cliff edge at some point in the past, the cliff edge up there, and rolled down, slid down, what have you, and these two are resting together, and they kind of form their own little arch. Sometimes these things form little cave-like structures, but those aren't true arches or true caves, because these things are just broken off parts of the cliff that ended up nestling next to each other here. But as we continue up the trail here a little bit, we will have, we're going to go along this arch loop, and so I will let this run for a little bit, see what we see up in this direction. See trilliums that are just past. There's trilliums that are past. Here's where the flowering portion was. There's bloodroot that's long past. Bloodroot's a very early flowering plant. Very unique leaf there. So just another look at these cliffs. Here you can really see the Peebles limestone, Peebles dolomite on the top, and the softer dolomitic layers below. I think it's called Bisher dolomite, a little softer and more erodible. All right, I think I will join you in a second. Well, this walk along Rocky Fork Gorge here is just beautiful. I'm about a week too late to really hit a lot of these highlights. There were trilliums flowering, I could tell, not long ago. Virginia bluebells. There's false Solomon seal. There are some wild geraniums and things still blooming, violets and things like that. I'll show a few of these today, I'm sure. But what I'd like to show today, behind me at the moment, is this tree, of course, which is a big one for its species. This is Kentucky coffee tree. Okay, this sort of chippy looking bark here. And these go way up. They produce very large compound leaves. Okay, and they are in the legume family. And so they produce in the fall these large bean-like structures. Okay, and so this is, yeah, there's some seeds in there. Let's see. There's a Kentucky coffee bean. Now I think these were called that because people would try to use these like coffee at some point. I don't know if that's recommended or not anymore. But nonetheless, Kentucky coffee trees are planted ornamentally around Ohio and other places. But of course, they are good native trees in southern Ohio. And that's a double trunker right there. That's a pretty big Kentucky coffee tree. I haven't seen too many in the wild any bigger than that. So that's really cool. It's just starting to leaf out right now. All right, so let's keep going and see what else we see. I'm now on the Falls Trail loop, and I'm bordering a little tributary to Rocky Fork Creek. And first of all, behind me, you can see the rock formations again, very clearly indicating that stronger, tougher Peebles dolomite above the Bisher dolomite below it, which is erodible and has been eroded through the millennia by this little tributary. All right, so it's formed a little bit of a, like a recessed cave right here. Let's walk upstream and see one of the first falls you can see on the Falls Trail. Okay. Again, that's flowing across that Bisher dolomite. That's a completely flat rock under a substrate there, okay? It's like a giant water slide, that whole entire tributary. All right, so let's cross that bridge and see where that takes us. Ahead of me is the falls where we started. And in contrast to the lush vegetation along the streams here in the riparian areas, which seem to be well protected from insults like deer, up here's an upland site. Okay, it contrasts markedly with what we saw down there along the stream side. It's much more denuded of vegetation, probably from heavy deer pressure. It is drier up here, rocky soil, but what you see up here are white oaks, shagbark hickories, pignut hickories, some hornbeams, and a few things like that. There's some red oaks over there. So the vegetation changed abruptly once I got up here. Here's a nice red oak perched on the cliff over there, and a white oak in front of me here. But the understory is much more open. It's actually pretty. But that's probably largely because of deer pressure up here. All right, so let's keep walking. I'm now up on top of the rocks on the Falls Trail, heading toward our next site. So let's do it. Along this trail, I am seeing some very interesting things. I'm seeing the remnants of shooting star. And if I see a good one that is camera worthy, I'll put that on camera, but I knew those to be here. But I have up here witch hazels. Here's a witch hazel and lots of witch hazel seedlings around me. And here's something coming into bloom. There's an Ohio spiderwort. Nice lavender purple flower. And I see a number of these scattered around in this particular place, blooming right now. Again, this is another you can get as an ornamental and plant it in your gardens. It does really well, but it's really picking up steam here at Miller Nature Sanctuary. Well, I'm still along the Falls Trail. I just crossed another little tributary with a rock slide, water slide bedrock, but I really am glad that I saw this little spot before I talked about shooting star a little further, because I found a great patch of it along with some other very interesting plant species here. So first of all, underneath this little block of limestone, there are tons of shooting stars. All right, these are just a little bit past. There are some that are still look quite nice, but you can see the shape of the flower there. It looks like a shooting star, where the stamens form, you know, the star itself, and then the petals form kind of like the flames that would shoot back from a shooting star. There's a whole sea of it right here underneath this rock. Okay, another interesting plant I noticed is this one. And this is one of the first times I've seen this really up close and personal. This is horse gentian. This is in the honeysuckle family. And I believe this is orange fruited horse gentian. Okay, and there's the diminutive flowers there in the leaf axils. And so that's really cool. But then there's also an endangered species that's sparsely lining the rock wall over there, and it's called Sullivantii. And its genus and species is Sullivantia sullivantii. So pretty easy. And so this is a quite rare species, and it's only in a couple of counties here in Ohio. And so that's cool to see. I can't get close to it. I don't want to step up in there to get close to it. But that's a really cool little thing to see, which I've never seen before. And along with all the other highlights I'm seeing, this is a neat little spot you can see along the Falls Trail. Still in the upland area above Rocky Fork on the Falls Trail, here's another neat plant to take a look at. And that's this plant. That is a large rosette of leaves of American Columbo, Frasera. And that plant will grow in that state for 5 or up to 15 years, just vegetatively like that, building reserves, until one year it decides it's big enough and it's time to flower. And when that happens, it will bolt up a flowering stalk from the center of that rosette that can be anywhere between, say, 5, 6, up to 8 feet tall with white flowers, and it will then get pollinated, set seed, and die. So it spends a lot of its time in this juvenile stage, a lot of its life in this juvenile rosette form, and then bolts, flowers, and dies. I don't see any around here that are doing that right now. It might not be quite the right time. Here's a few more. But one or more of these might be lucky this year, and this will be the year to flower. Here's a few more. And that would be a neat sight to witness. Okay, American Columbo. Again, just another overview of this beautiful upland. A little depauperate in the understory, but it's rich with oaks. I've seen many oak species at this point. White oak, chinkapin oak, red oak, black oak, shingle oak, pin oak, okay? There's been a number. It's great. It's a nice spring day. It's about 65 degrees right now. After raining for over a week, it's nice to see some sun. Let's keep going. As I was admiring this young white oak that was leafing out here in front of me, I saw a strange growth right here. So that thing is a gall. That's caused by a gall wasp. And this one has kind of a woolly or cottony appearance, as though it was stained with Kool-Aid. And this is called the wool sower gall. So there's all kinds of galling insects. People might be familiar with oak apple galls, for example, but lots of galling insects, often wasps, that will you know, make a living off of oak trees. And so this is just a neat one, very striking appearance, called a wool sower gall. Onward, what else are we going to find? I proceeded down this staircase, heading back down near Rocky Fork. And as you approach that, you see a few interesting things. Here's a plant. This is called false Solomon seal. You can always tell false Solomon seal from the actual Solomon seal, because false Solomon seal flowers at the end of its main stem, where Solomon seal has flowers that hang below that stem on the underside, several of them. Okay, but something that greets you is another arch. So here's a nice little arch in Peebles Dolomite. And that one has a little view right through to Rocky Fork. Very cool. Clinging to the rocks here, I see a few interesting things. We're a little too far away to see perhaps, but there is wild hydrangea that will be flowering here in maybe a month. Then I see little white stonecrop, sedum species flowering on the cliff face there. Okay, along with rock cress and a few other things that are known to hang out and succeed on rock faces. As I speak, I see another plant like that. Again, it's going to be a little bit out of our reach, but I see columbine up there, wild columbine with its orange and yellow flowers. So that's probably unlikely to be seen. Hopefully we'll get closer to that shortly. As we curved around underneath that arch, here's a spot where you can get up close to that Sullivantia. It's lining the rock face here. It's not flowering at the present. And we can get up close and personal with wild columbine. Okay, unlike garden columbine you might grow at home, which has purple, lavender, yellowish flowers, this is orangish and yellowish, and very often clings to rocks like this. Okay, so a nice little spot. Also plenty of ferns, a variety of species. There are water leaf species. These large leaved plants here are a species of water leaf. And I see probably at least 5 species of fern, which I won't name at the moment. We're pretty deep in the preserve now along Rocky Fork Creek. I'm on the creek side of the cliffs. Just beautiful. This wildflower display is beautiful. I missed by a week or so the major flowering period of a lot of these things, but there's still lush vegetation everywhere. So just in front of me, this whole sea of plants you see in front of me is largely blue cohosh. So that's everywhere in this understory. There is also some black cohosh around. This is Impatiens compensis, very likely. Okay, very lush plant. Here's a tree, a small tree species called bladdernut. All right, so that's a common thing I'm seeing. And it's just beautiful. You can really see the cliff face up there as well. At this point, between probably the creek and the top of that cliff, it's probably 30, 40 feet, I would guess. It's beautiful. Quite quiet, nothing but birds and, you know, your own thoughts to keep you occupied as you walk this trail. So I'm going to keep going, and I'll hit a few more highlights on this trail and try to get around the tulip tree trail pretty quickly, although I am running out of battery and I don't have that much time to do it all, but let's see what I can do. I'm along Rocky Fork to show you there's a slump block that made it all the way to the creek, but to show you that how high the water was. Again, it's still quite high. You can see how brown it is. This water was the whole way up here just probably a few days ago. This is easily about 5 to 6 feet above the stream level right now. So this was raging. That would have been a sight to see. And here we have horsetail in front of us, or scouring rush. It's interesting jointed ancient gymnosperm. And I'm seeing little swifts or swallows flying along the creek here, skimming the water, collecting insects. They're flying, they almost look like bats, but it's too early for bats. All right, let's keep going. Still along Rocky Fork on the Falls Trail, because there's so many interesting things to see here. I'm realizing I will not make the tulip tree trail on camera today because I'm running out of battery. But here's another plant of interest that I don't think I've ever talked about before on this series. So this small shrub or small tree or shrub behind me is something called leatherwood, genus Durca. Okay, now it's called leatherwood. First of all, here's the little fruits that are developing. Okay, little green fruits right now. But it's called leatherwood because its stems and branches are very leathery. They can be twisted and turned and bent and so forth without breaking. Okay, they recover. You can bend these things over. You could practically tie it into a knot and they would recover. Okay, so that's leatherwood, and that's one I'm pretty certain I've never shown before on this series. Grown right here along Rocky Fork, right next to a slump block. All right, so I'm going to go as far as I can on the Falls Trail and probably conclude when I reach the end of that. So let's keep going. Well, as I imagined, I don't have enough battery to do the Tulip Tree Trail, but I hope I gave you enough of a taste of the Miller Nature Sanctuary to encourage a visit. I'm quite impressed. The spring wildflower display here is amazing. And if I were to do it next year, I would come 1 week earlier, around April 25th, 2026, and you'll be blown away. So, until next time, this is Don signing off. Bye-bye.